So I was rewatching season 1 of the Chainsaw Man anime in preparation for the movie, and a number of things stood out to me. People have often called the adaptation of Chainsaw Man cinematic, either positively or negatively, and it's a pretty vague term all things considered. So as someone with a degree in filmmaking, I decided to put my knowledge to use and go over some scenes and techniques that I believe have earned it this label. This is the cinema of Chainsaw Man. So let's start with techniques. The simple tricks that differentiate Chainsaw Man from most other anime and relate it more to mainstream movies. First up is the match cut, an editing technique that links two separate scenes together by matching the content or motion of two shots. You can see a couple examples playing on screen right now, including one that literally uses a match. So when do we see this in Chainsaw Man? Well, it's often used to link a character's present situation with a backstory element, such as power losing Meowie, or Denji throwing up. I'm pausing it here so you don't have to watch this again. They also use it to smoothly change scenes, like this. You can even see it in the intro, Kickback. Next up is POV shots. This one is a little more common, so I don't need to explain what it entails, but it's used in Chainsaw Man far more frequently than most anime, to admittedly varying degrees of success. Then we have parallel cutting, which is more of an editing technique and by no means Chainsaw Man specific, but it adds to the cinematic feel of the edit. The best example of this in my opinion is Makima's long range attack. Constantly cutting back and forth between her hands and the victims gives it a frantic pace, while showing how her abilities work in real time. Seeing the anime already has parallel cutting down gives me some confidence for how they'll handle it in upcoming seasons, but I can't really talk about that right now because this is a spoiler-free video. Beyond these examples are countless small details that all contribute to the show's cinematics. Some shots are rotoscoped from live actors, the general pace of the show is more atmospheric than your typical action shonen, and the camera tends to stay very grounded. Let's expand on that idea actually, because in my opinion, it's one of the biggest factors here. Almost all of the angles in the show feel like they could have realistically been shot with a camera, even in action scenes. And you don't notice this until you see the contrast with other series where the camera is flying about all over the place, trying to capture the action. Don't get me wrong, this looks amazing, but it's not cinematic. Additionally, this concept crosses over into live-action movies. I've heard some people call the MCU hamburger shonen because it's mostly animated footage with the same camera motion. Getting back on track with Chainsaw Man, we've gone over all the little things that make the show stand out individually, but how about some specific scenes where all of this is brought together, starting with... There is some fantastic scene direction and blocking here, and it's what made me decide to make a video on this in the first place. The power dynamic is shown through each character's positioning relative to each other. At the start of the scene, Denji and Makima appear to be on equal footing. This is deceptive, as Makima is essentially puppeteering him. Denji gradually falls lower as the scene progresses, until Makima is literally on top of him, fully in control. Bear in mind, this is the scene where we are introduced to the Gun Devil, our first major villain, and the prize that Makima has promised our protagonist if he can defeat it. By giving him this goal, she has gained full control of his ambition, his fate, and most importantly, his heart. A neat detail that I believe holds some symbolism is the red stamp that I mentioned earlier, which gradually falls from Denji's hand, to the table, to the floor, following the change in dynamic. To me, the red is reminiscent of both lipstick and blood, showing where each of their mindsets are, love and death, which both tie into the central theme of Denji's heart. So I was initially going to analyze the train scene next, but I decided to do the whole episode because this is a movie for real. The episode opens with Himeno bringing Denji home, which is a slow-paced scene with multiple long takes. Like, all of these shots are unreasonably long cuts for an animator to put together, which is why it stands out. We get that POV shot from earlier and some beautiful lighting. After the intro, we cut to a flashback with Makima, showcasing more rotoscoping, and some art direction that is reminiscent of a high-budget romance movie, We cut back to the morning after, which has some fantastic camera work. Or I guess in this case it would be storyboarding. You really do forget you're not watching real actors play out a scene sometimes. The expressions are so good, so props to the overworked animators as always. And then we have the train scene, which opens with another beautiful long take. A Twitter post about this shot is actually the origin of the absolute cinema meme. I'm not joking. Now, the following sequence is what I consider the tipping point of when Chainsaw Man really gets going. The adaptation adds so many details that bring it above and beyond, like the assassins quietly ducking behind the seats, and the train entering a tunnel right before it all kicks off. Now, Fujimoto often writes these dialogue-free scenes in the manga, and the directors really understood the assignment here. It is so haunting to see this all play out in a silence that is only interrupted by the sound of gunfire. To end the episode, we have an extended action scene, which doesn't leave much room for cinematics. And admittedly, there is some criticism I agree with where the directing style doesn't lend itself too well to fast-paced action. But there is one detail that I absolutely love. Check this out.
Got it.
This right here is technically a match cut. They have incorporated the story's power system into the cinematic style of the anime. I am speechless. It's no secret that Fujimoto is a film buff. I don't need to go over all the references in Kickback, and this cinematic style is just as obvious in the manga, so it's natural that some of it would translate over to the anime. But in Season 1, they really went the extra mile with this direction, which means it's time to address the elephant in the room. Season 1 of Chainsaw Man was not well received in Japan, leading to a 3-year wait for a sequel, and the director, Ryu Nakayama, leaving the team. Now, I've seen a lot of confusion over why something that looks this good could get hate for the same reason other fans love it. But I can somewhat understand because it comes down to expectation. The manga does not look like that. A take that I've seen repeated a lot is, why would you complain about being served a 5-course meal? But if you ordered a pizza and the waiter showed up with lobster linguine, you'd be disappointed no matter how much effort went in. Needless to say, future seasons are not gonna look the same. But the trailers we've got from the movie are keeping me positive about the new style. It feels like they struck a good balance where the action scenes are an objective upgrade, while the story sections retain some cinematic aspects. In fact, I was so impressed I paid to go all the way to London to see it in IMAX at the BFI. And if I like what I see, who knows? I might make another video about the cinema of Chainsaw Man. Today's video is sponsored by me. If you made it this far, then thank you so much for sticking around. Starting from zero is pretty daunting, so knowing people are there is some very good motivation. I would love to keep making videos like this, so if you liked what you see, any subs, likes, comments, but especially shares would be greatly appreciated. That's all I have to say for now, so until next time, see ya!